Oh, got it. Okay, deal. All right, let's go ahead and call the Senate back to order. If we could please secure the doors and ask our members to take their seats. It's a near mutiny in the lounge about coming back, but reason has prevailed. We are on our way. If we could, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President.
All right. Has everyone recorded their presence in the chamber? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 41 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland is now again in session. Chair recognizes the senator from the 23rd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to be recorded in the green on Amendment 343-227-1.
227. Do we get that one? Do we get the number? Senator,
Recorded in the red. I'm sorry. Recorded in the red.
In the red, and we have the number. All right. Any objections to the senator's motion? Without objection, so ordered. All right. Do we have further amendments to the bill? Or yes, Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th District has an amendment, and we've lost our pages. They are now on a tour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Ms. Morris will be our sole collector here. So we may have to resort to the electronic here again. Give us just a moment to get it up on the board.
Sure.
All right, the senator may explain the amendment.
Okay, good afternoon, colleagues. My amendment is dealing with the net zero school requirement. And in the bill on page 8 of the reprint, under the net zero school grants, it states that at least one of the schools constructed in each local school system from July 1st, 2023 through 2033 shall be constructed to meet net zero energy requirements. And so what my amendment would do is still have those counties go forward with that, but it would amend out high schools. And this is why we want this focused on elementary and middle schools and not high schools. The concept of a net zero school is that it generates as much energy annually as it uses. So net zero elementaries are great resources to the communities they serve. Unfortunately, net zero high schools are not yet practical due to the fact that they often serve as community centers and are often open from early morning to late night. High schools have theaters, lighted stadiums, swimming pools, some of them large gymnasiums. Often the high schools are used for spring festivals, Sunday church services, sports tournaments. So unlike elementary schools, high schools serve the public really from sun up to sundown. So that is the reason for amending out the local net zero school requirements for the high schools, but again emphasizing that those local school systems would go forward with their net zero requirements for elementary and middle schools. And I offer this as a friendly amendment in the vein of my colleague who had her amendment accepted as a friendly amendment.
All right, senator moves the amendment. Chair recognizes the floor leader on the amendment.
Thank you for referring to the earlier amendment that was adopted. Senator, I'm going to speak on the motion. What the bill says, ladies and gentlemen, is that over the next 10 years, at least one of the schools should be net zero if there is money in the special fund to pay the cost differential. So in other words, if there is $3 million, if the marginal cost is $3 million and you are the first one to apply to that fund, You will have that, and you'll be able to pay the marginal difference, whether it's elementary, middle, or high school. If there's no money left in the fund, and you're only doing it conditional on that money being available, you don't have to do it. So if a high school does in fact cost more, they will request more from that fund. If it's there, they will build it. If it's not there, they won't choose to do it. But they also can choose to do this for an elementary school or middle school. They have 10 years. So whatever is on their horizon, they can do if there is money available. We visited 2 schools, East Holabird Academy in East Baltimore. They built a terrific school with 970 students. It's 4 to 8. That's a lot of grades. And they did it with a marginal extra cost of $3 million. That was directly from them. It is terrific. You really should visit it. We visited Wild Lake Middle School in Columbia, Howard County, and theirs is a very large middle school. They didn't start from block 1, so it cost a little more because they didn't start from a pure green plant, because they utilized plans that were already in existence. Theirs was a little bit more, $5 million, I believe. So we're not saying it has to be a high school. We're not saying you have to build it if the money's not there. We have lots of checks and balances. We just want to get started on this, and if we can do 4 every year or 3 every year over the next 3 years, we'll have 9 or 10 schools, and we really, truly believe once the school system does it this way and starts to realize the energy savings, they will proliferate across the state. Wild Lake has 1,380 students. And I don't know the high school you may be referring to. 1,380 students is a pretty decent sized school. So for those reasons, I don't think we need this. I would urge a red vote.
All right. On the amendment, any further discussion? Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District on the amendment.
Yeah, Mr. President, I just rise in support of the amendment. We've seen in my own county the same phenomenon where it's pretty easy to get an elementary school. It's harder to get a middle, and really darn hard to do a high school. Based upon the usage. If you just look at the way we use our high schools, mine are used 7 days a week, late, not sun up to sundown, but way after dark, where you've got lights on the football field, lacrosse field outside. We've got groups in there on Saturday and Sunday using them. They're even in bad weather. Just really tough with a high school. I think I think this is a great way to go with these things to use the schools as demonstrator projects. And it makes so much more sense if we focus this on our elementary and middle schools. I think it'll make the money go further. Look, if we're going to say one jurisdiction can use this for a high school, they're going to break the bank. They're going to take all the money to make their high school energy or net zero. We'd be much better off taking those funds and spreading them over multiple counties who can convert elementary and middle schools before we start attacking high schools, because it's far more difficult. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the amendment, any senators request a roll call vote. Any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 26 votes in the negative, the senator's amendment fails. Chair recognizes the senator from the 1st District. Senator has an amendment. Our Secretary's office will collect the amendment. Give us just a moment. All right, the senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, the Senate, very, very simple amendment here. It deals with the Building Energy Transition Implementation Task Force. I think we're going to have a task force dealing with energy implementation. We ought to have someone on there that understands some of these other fuels that are out there that ultimately with new technology will be energy efficient and zero emissions. And all this does is add one representative of the heating, oil, and propane industry who is a biofuel distributor. I think you need to have someone with maybe a different point of view, the other side of the aisle, so to speak, to have some input, and I think it would be appropriate. The kitchen table is full except there's one empty seat. If you look at the members on there, and this would be the one to fill the empty seat, I would ask for support of the amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, let's hear from the floor leader here.
Senator colleagues, I appreciate this, and I thank you, Senator, for sharing it with me. This task force is looking at the kind of state support that should be offered in those unique situations. This is not discussing what kind of energy. And we start adding people just based on it's about building expertise. It's about the cost to the building. And I read part of the list a moment ago, just so you have a context of what they're going to do. And they will be reporting back to us. This is not to have all the representatives of all the different types of energy. It was really to decide, in terms of retrofitting, what is a reasonable horizon for investment? What are the kind of things that might be done in that building? And again, the list includes office and office building, apartment and office building association, property manager of apartment buildings, equity firms, financial institution, district energy. It also includes, obviously, MEA, Public Service Commission, and many others. I think this was very carefully crafted and is not about people who are going to say, yes, we should do climate change, or no, we should not do climate change. These are people who are going to look at ledgers, finances, and decide what recommendations they will make back to us. I think starting to add people who are involved more additionally in the energy industry is not really the purpose of this group, so I would urge a red vote.
All right, any other senators who have not yet spoken? If not, Chair recognizes Senator from District 1. Maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. That may be true, but it's still part of that process of what you're going to do in these buildings, et cetera, and you're looking at heating proposals, et cetera, et cetera. I would ask for a roll call vote, Mr. President.
All right, any further discussion? If not, Chair recognizes the chair of the committee. Nope. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 27 votes in the negative, the senator's amendment fails. Are there further amendments to the bill or its title? Chair recognizes the senator from the 21st District.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I have an amendment,
Senator has an amendment. Give us just a moment to collect and distribute.
and I've shared this with the chair, and it goes to this issue of school buildings. The chairman,
Oh, Senator, give us just one moment.
Sure.
into,
that's fine.
had a spidey sense that we would have time to get the amendment drawn, so.
Yeah,
It appears our amazing amendment office
Yeah, absolutely.
was able to ship it quickly, and we thank them enormously. Yes, Chair recognizes, while we're waiting, Senator from Montgomery County.
While we're waiting, Mr. President, it would be appropriate to register a vote.
Senator may proceed.
Thank you. I'd like to be recorded in the red for amendment number 103428/1, please.
Do we have it? All right, are there any objections to the senator's motion? Without objection, so ordered. Senator has an amendment and may explain the amendment.
Yeah, thank you very much. We had a lot of discussion today about school buildings being excluded, and the chairman pointed out that the committee had decided to do that because school buildings are a big deal, and they got a lot of other challenges going on, and they decided not to do the mandates on the school buildings. That's an issue we can do with later. But what the amendment does is say, let's at least do the studies on the school buildings. So the process that will go on with other sectors by 2025 would also go on for school buildings. But it would not mandate anything. So we'd have the data 4 or 5 years from now to see if we want to do a mandate, don't want to do a mandate, do want to do a different kind of a mandate. So it simply provides the data, as the chair pointed out, it distinguishes it between the mandate and the data. So I move the amendment.
Senator moves the amendment. Chair recognizes the floor leader on the amendment.
Senator colleagues, obviously gathering data is in our benefit. Hopefully it won't be too expensive or onerous to the 24 jurisdictions. But if in the future we want to make that policy decision, having that data will help in those decisions. We see it as a friendly amendment.
All right. Any discussion on the amendment? Chair recognizes the senator from the 4th District on the amendment.
I would just ask for roll call. I don't care for the amendment, so I just want to go on record voting no.
Understood. All right. Yes, all right, Chair recognizes the minority leader on the amendment.
The maker of the amendment yield.
Senator may proceed.
So this says schools. Would that cover K through 12 and higher ed, or just K through 12?
I defer to the vice chair who knows all. The intent was that it applied broadly. Sorry? No, higher. He was asking about, I thought you were asking about private schools.
No. I was saying, did the term school apply to K through 12 and higher ed?
I misunderstood. Higher is already covered
Okay.
in the bill before the amendment.
Gotcha. Thanks.
I misunderstood. Thank you.
All right. Let's do a roll call vote. Any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 30 votes in the affirmative, the senator's amendment passes. Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd district has an amendment.
I do. Thank you, Mr. President.
Give us just a moment to collect. All right, the senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. The body may recall that last year when we were considering the predecessor to this bill, I offered an amendment to require that with respect to newly constructed schools, solar panels be installed on their roofs. That amendment was not accepted by the body, but the predicate for it remains, namely something that happened in my district. The Maryland State Fairgrounds has a large building called the Cow Palace, where the cows stay during the state fair that are being shown. It has a very flat roof that's also very large. The state fair received a telephone call from a solar company saying, can we put solar panels on your roof? And Gary Brewster, who's the head of the state fair, said, how much is it going to cost? And the answer was nothing. They would put the solar panels on the roof for free. Gary thought maybe there was some kind of a hitch, but there really wasn't. And not only did the state fair get the solar panels installed for free, but in addition, they're getting cheaper electricity for the next 15 years. So with that as a predicate, I introduced the amendment last year. As I say, it didn't fail, but this is another year, another bill, and I have another amendment. This one is different from the one last year. And rather than paraphrase it, since it's only 2 sentences long, I'm going to read the 2 sentences. For each school constructed by a local school system from July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2033 inclusive, the local school system shall consider whether the school should be constructed with solar panels on the roof of the school. If, after considering installing solar panels under subparagraph 1 of this paragraph, a local school system decides not to construct solar panels on the roof of the school, the local school system shall provide to the Interagency Commission information regarding why the school system chose not to construct solar panels on the roof of the school. My hypothetical scenario would suggest that when the school system looks into it, like the state fair, which had a building which had a large flat roof, because all schools that are built these days have large flat roofs, the school system will find that the solar panels can be installed for free. So this would impel the school systems to investigate that and then to report to the IAC if they decide not to do it.
All right, senators move the amendment. We'll hear from the floor leader.
Yeah, echoing the maker of the amendment, this basically asks school systems and the people in the offices for development and building and construction to look at it. Some people, you get used to doing the same thing year after year after year, just to try to get people a little bit out of their comfort zone. And if they see, it's not that hard, and we've found out, architects, if they say, if you want X in your plan, I'll put it in. And when the builder gets the plan, he or she, they will build according to the specs. But if you don't consider some different or new idea, you're never going to do it. So this doesn't require you to do it. It just says you have to use that lens. We think it's reasonable, and in the spirit, again, of bipartisanship, we accept the amendment.
All right, no objections to the amendment. Are there any objections to the amendment? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. All right, we have another amendment. Senator from District 6 has an
Thank you, Mr.
amendment, it
President.
appears. Just a moment. We got a committee of the whole here. All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we know, this is a big bill. This is, matter of fact, we had over 140 witnesses to this bill that came that replied. And knowing that all that were unfavorable and had information, it had a lot of information to it. But if we go forward with this bill, we know that there will be a task force. We know that there will be a study. We know that's a lot going on. So I think, Mr. President, within a 3-year time, which would be 2025, I think the overall in this bill and the action should be assessed. It should have an assessment on the implementation of this act and published the results on the assessment on the Department of the Environment website. And I just think it's just a friendly amendment, and I hope you vote for it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the floor leader on the amendment.
I appreciate the intent from the sponsor. However, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, we have 2 sunsets. The Public Service Commission is doing a report, and the Department of the Environment is in the center of promulgating lots of regulations. Adding another report and bringing in General Services and Department of Natural Resources, I have to say, is a little bit befuddling. I think this just mucks up the works. I think it's unnecessary and will cost money, unnecessary money. So I would urge a red vote.
All right, on the amendment, any further discussion on the amendment? Chair recognizes the maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, we always try to have accountability and transparency. And the past 2 years, we've had a task force on this. So now we're going to be in motion, and we're trying to do the right thing. So when everything else goes in place, again, the study and task force, when in 3 years' time, this thing will be in place. So wouldn't you like to know how the barometer is being moved, if we're going the right way? I think it would show, at least in 3-year time, that, by the way, we're moving the barometer. We're going the right way. And if we are, then we can say, hey, we've done a good thing. But if we haven't, maybe we need to question that. And that's all I'm saying. And I hope you vote for this amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion on the amendment? If not, all in favor of the amendment, Senators request a roll call. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 29 votes in the negative, the senator's amendment fails. Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District. Has an amendment? All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise in full recognition that the chairman has kept himself smiling for the last 4 hours, and I will try my best not to change his demeanor. You know, in any bill, there's the benefit and the burden. If I get the benefit, I'm always in favor of the bill. If I get all the burden, I'm always against it. I think a good bill is one that kind of shares that. If I get some benefit, I get some burden. We talk about the war on climate change. Let's talk about another war for a second. You know, we go off to wars with our armies. It's real easy to be patriotic if you don't get any of your loved ones in harm's way. But if you got some loved ones in harm's way, you're like, hold on a second. Let's rethink this, folks. Maybe we're being a little bit overly aggressive. And the same is really true in the war on climate change. If I live in the DC suburbs in a highly energy efficient condominium with my electric car, jump on my electric subway system to go to my office job in an energy efficient federal office building where I make a living pushing electrons, it's pretty easy for me to be pretty aggressive on climate change and energy prices. But if I live in a 1930s or 20s or even 1830s or 20s building where they're not highly energy efficient, and I drive my 5 or 10-year-old gasoline automobile, and I work in a blue collar job that is highly energy dependent, then maybe this isn't so good for me. So, and I think so much of the war on climate is falls into that scheme where it's easy for some folks and it's not too fair to other folks. And unfortunately, I think too often that breaks down along minority lines. That frequently this stuff has a much severe burden on the minority populations. So with that in mind, and I don't know, none of us know how this stuff's going to break down in the long run. But wouldn't it be nice to know that? So all this bill says is, if you're looking on the bill, the reprint from the committee amendments on page 11, it says in there now, it says that we shall adopt a methodology for identifying communities disproportionately affected by climate change. So it's got a methodology to identify communities disproportionately affected by climate change. And all this bill says is, or by the act, it just adds in, or the provisions of this act, right? So not only do you study whether a community is being impacted by climate change, but you also say, hey, how are they being impacted by what we're enacting? Because if certain communities are going to find it real easy to comply, they're not going to get any burden at all. And others are going to get more of the burden and less of the benefit. So all this says is, let's put the data out there. As we're implementing this, let's just see how the act is impacting. Is it impacting certain communities in a less favorable, are they getting much more of the burden than the benefit? So with that, Mr. President, I've moved the amendment. Thank you.
Senator moves the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader.
Thank you, Senator, and I did smile again listening to your explanation. Ladies and gentlemen, this bill and our committee, in shaping this bill and working through this bill, used a lens of environmental justice. You find it in many places, but I want to talk about one section that the good senator wants to amend. This section charges the Environmental Justice and Sustainability Commission, which exists, and unfortunately had been moribund for a number of years and had been ignored, and we're trying to reinvigorate and give charges that will actually make a change. It calls on the Commission and the Department to develop a methodology for identifying communities disproportionately affected by climate change. Also to create strategies to address that climate change. We know asthma and health problems are much worse in areas and communities that are disproportionately affected by climate change. And also the bill calls for them to propose spending targets to ensure that those communities that have been affected are also remediated. So that's essentially what this section tries to do. But we didn't stop there. We've made investments in low and moderate income housing in terms of retrofit. We have created this climate corps to work in urban communities and hire people from those communities to help on energy efficiency, to struggle against climate injustice. So that's the lens we use. If you try to figure out how this fits in, it says while you're trying to address climate change, environmental justice, you should look at how climate change is affecting environmental justice. It's, I have to say, a little confusing, a little beyond me, and it seems like it's circular reasoning. I think it confuses the issue, and it tries to set up, I think, a false dichotomy that this bill is not clearly intended to not only affect and address the challenge of climate change, but to put a special emphasis on how it affects those who've been voiceless and disproportionately affected. So for those reasons, Mr. President, I would urge a red vote.
All right, on the amendment, any senators wish to speak who have not yet spoken? If not, Chair will recognize the maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, how many times as this country pursued lofty aims that have inadvertently disproportionately affected minority communities? The war on our war in Vietnam, that was never intended to affect, nobody looked at that and said, oh, let's go disproportionately impact minority communities, but it did. The war on drugs, nobody ever said this is a bill to disproportionately impact minority communities. There was nothing in there that said, let's go after minority communities. But the reality is, it did. Now we have another a war on climate change. Nobody is saying in this bill, go after the minority communities. No, there's no part of this bill that says, you can't read into this bill an intent to disproportionately impact minority communities. But it doesn't mean we won't. And that's the whole idea of this amendment is, as you're doing this, as you're implementing this bill, as you're following through on the measures you're supposed to take under this, let's look at it and just to see, is it adversely affecting or disproportionately affecting or negatively affecting? So all I'm asking is for the data, that we said data is good. So we have a track record of inadvertently, we try to do the right thing, but hey, the way the devil's in the details, and once the details play out, too often in this country, the real burden, when we talk about the benefit and the burden of the legislation, the burden tends to fall more heavily on the minority communities, and that's all I'm asking. Let's give it a fair shake. Thank you.
All right, on the amendment, any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 29 votes in the negative, the senator's amendment fails. Chair recognizes the senator from District 19 has an amendment.
Yes, thank you,
Please
Mr.
collect the
President.
senator's
Can I
amendment. No worries.
pass that out? Thank you. Would you like the amendment number, Mr. President?
I think we have it. Just give us one moment if we scan it in here. All right, let's get it passed out just a bit. All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Do you need the last 4 digits?
Oh, no, we're good.
You're good. All right. Thank you for that, Mr. President. Colleagues, this is a quick amendment to address the concern that was brought up earlier this morning. It strikes an amendment that came from the committee and restores the original language of the bill to help facilitate the ease of data information collecting and reporting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator moves the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader.
Yes, colleagues, it does return it to the exact wording of the amendment that was suggested to us by the senator from Montgomery County. The language that the committee came up with was to also utilize this performance manager, which a lot of buildings and builders use. And it's an interactive thing that not only measures the quantity, but the intensity. The amendment that the senator sponsored doesn't preclude the use of that. And my guess is if we come back in a year or 2 years, we're going to find out most use this very tool that the senator would like to have removed. Clearly, it'll allow MDE to have builders and people affected by the legislation, those over 25,000 square feet, to use the building performance manager. Other than change a few words, it doesn't do a lot of harm, so we don't object to the amendment.
What was the floor leader's response? I'm sorry. Oh, okay. All right. Senator, are there any objections to the senator's amendment? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The senator's amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th district has an amendment. As we're passing, as we're waiting for this one to be good news in the midst of bad news, but the state trooper was struck in Bel Air this morning, but is actually doing well. So we just got a report back that it appears that it is less serious, but certainly praying for the trooper's recovery out there on the road. Doing remarkable work. All right, the senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's been a lot of conversation about building standards, reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, we've got task force, we've got commissions, we've got work groups, all kinds of things in here. There is one part of this bill that will guarantee ratepayers' bills will increase, and that is the language around Empower and the increases in the energy savings required because of Empower. Keep in mind, everybody, that Empower is paid for by usage on every single customer bill, and it is a line item. It says specifically how much you're paying for Empower. Right now, as I said before, the average customer is paying between $9 and $10 or $6 and $9 a month, specifically written on their bill. So the bill as amended right now currently puts increases into the Empower from 2% to 2.25% to 2.5% and to 2.75%. All of these increases will become harder and harder to achieve because, again, we've already taken all the low-hanging fruit from Empower. We've already replaced light bulbs. We've already put in thermostats. We've already done refrigerators. Everything else that we do now will become more and more aggressive to try to meet these energy savings. So in the testimony, we heard from the Public Service Commission that they were concerned that Empower may no longer be cost effective. And that's what they're trying to balance out all the time. The amount of money coming in with the savings in reaching those goals, is it cost effective for the ratepayers to be paying this much? So, Mr. President, I think that the bill puts the cart before the horse a little bit here. The Public Service Commission is conducting a report that this General Assembly asked them to do. That report is due in January of this year. So this amendment simply is uncodified language that says that the PSC report that's due on July 1st, 2022, if the premise of that report is that the extension of Empower is no longer cost effective for the ratepayers, then the increases that are in this bill right now will be eliminated. And we've talked a lot about sunsets. This is one area of the bill that does not have a sunset to it. In fact, this bill goes on forever, 2027 and beyond. So I think it's important that we listen again to the regulators, that we ask to see if this program is cost effective or not. If it is, then the bill stays the way that it's currently written. If it's not, then those increases come back out. We can come back another day to amend and change that, but I don't think that we should be passing a bill that we know this one area is specifically hitting ratepayers in the pocketbook. So I ask that we move this amendment.
Senator moves the amendment. Chair recognizes the chair, the floor leader.
Yeah, Mr. President, members of the Senate, I urge you to resist this amendment. Let me just give a couple quick items. We passed this last year with very little debate. Additionally, what the special task force that Public Service Commission is working on is probably going to come back with something more aggressive. We don't know that for a fact. We don't know what the plans are going to be, but I assume there'll be some objections to that. This is a bridge, ladies and gentlemen. It is a bridge to increase energy efficiency and hopefully reduce the energy cost to our low and modest income people. I too am curious and am hoping to see the new Public Service Commission report, but we need to remember the Public Service Commission can recommend all they want. They're not a policy setting body. It still comes back to us. So this amendment that says it gives the policy authority to Public Service Commission is something they don't hold now. The implication is we give it to them. We should make the decisions, and that's why we have this in front of us today. It should be our decision. We made it once last year. We should make it again. I urge a red vote.
All right. On the amendment, any senators who have not yet spoken, chair recognizes the maker of the amendment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I would just say that if the PSC comes back with more aggressive savings goals, that this amendment doesn't do anything then. We would just go forward with that. This just protects this body and frankly all of us that would be getting constituent calls saying, why has my electric bill gone up? What have you done? because we set a policy, as the chairman just said. We've set a policy that is going to increase electric bills. As long as we all know that and acknowledge that, that's fine. I'm just saying, let the report that we've asked for come back to us. If that report says everything is fine, the bill stays in place as it is. If it says that it's no longer cost effective, that the ratepayers are not getting back what they deserve, then we don't put the cart before the horse and we don't go for these increases. That's all, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right, on the amendment, Chair recognizes the minority whip.
Just speaking in favor of the amendment, Mr. President, one of the concerns that, just from a process standpoint, was this bill, before it was amended, especially dealt a whole lot with energy. It still does. Some of the energy stuff has been taken out of the bill, but the Finance Committee, being the committee where energy goes, we were not, on the bill, and did not have a bill hearing, full bill hearing on the issue. So the gentleman from Queen Anne's County, who is really an expert on a lot of these issues, really, I think somebody that a lot of us in the body look to for advice. I think it's a good amendment because it just gives us an opportunity for an additional check here. So I would ask the body to support the amendment.
All right, any further discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 27 votes in the negative, the senator's amendment fails. Are there any further amendments to the bill? Oh, thought we were there. Chair recognizes the senator from 29. Has an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. First thing I want to do is apologize to the chairman for not having the opportunity to give him a copy of this amendment in advance. This amendment is actually pretty simple, but it's something that we deal with a lot in the rural areas. This state, as we all know, is extremely diverse, and from the mountains to the ocean, right? Not just a country song. But when we talk about how we have our power companies, like whether my residents that have SMECO, some of yours have BG&E, some have Chop Tank, some have First Energy, some have Pepco. Everything is different, and there's different funding levels from the state depending on the different areas that we come from, especially our populations. The different ones of us that are populated differently, and they have different struggles with less people and less funding. What this amendment does is it recognizes that the rural character of the state has additional struggles that climate change has for them, but it is different because it's even more because there's less people. So putting the same standard across the state is differently. What this says is, quite frankly, if you touch the Beltway, then the mandates for this affect you and those counties. If you're outside the Beltway, then it would not. It would just be a recommendation. So,
All right,
urge
the
a
senator
green vote.
moves the amendment. Chair recognizes the floor leader.
The committee says no, thank you.
All right, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 28 votes in the negative, the senator's amendment fails. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 528 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. All right, we've got a layover calendar. Number 19. Sorry, clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 541, Senator Elfrith, Natural Resources, Maryland Park Service and State Parks Alterations, Great Maryland Outdoors Act. Question is on the adoption of the amendments offered from the floor by Senator Washington.
All right, question before the body is the amendment offered by the senator from the 43rd District. Chair recognizes the minority leader.
Thank you. I know it's late. I just had a couple questions. It was a long amendment. I don't know if it's the offerer of the amendment, it's probably the more
Will the
appropriate.
maker of the amendment yield? It appears so. Senator may proceed.
So I was looking, I believe it's Amendment 4, where it talks about, B&T put together a list about land acquisition and how that would be done. And they put in there specifically, they would consider sites with historical significance to minority communities.
Right.
And the amendment before has struck that and replaced it, and it lists, I think, 4 groups of minorities. And when I went to the US Census and other places, minority rights websites, it's not limited to 4 or 5, how many you have in here. What is the intent of the amendment? It appears to try to limit the group of minorities. Is that the intention of the amendment?
No, thank you for the question. So very often in a lot of our legislation, we have this ambiguous terminology. We deal with this, Mr. President, we deal with this a lot in our committee, minorities, diverse, et cetera. So this was an attempt to be more specific, and specific since it's relating to sort of the historic presence of individuals and the top number of people. So, we could list hundreds, but by listing those are the top 4. And so 4 seemed to be a good number, and that's why I chose those.
Okay, so I guess my question, the original bill that came out of B&T said minorities.
Right.
And what the amendment before us said is not including, but it says these groups of minorities. It doesn't say including these, which I think legally would say that in addition. But it seems like it's limiting the minority groups that can participate in this. And I just have a concern. I think the B&T's language was good. It said all minorities, and this amendment just limits to 4 groups.
So again, Mr. President, we've evolved in how we talk about different groups. It's understood now in 2022 to simply say minorities is erasure, is not being very specific. We have a specific numbers of individuals. If you want to add an amendment to list the whole number, you can ask B&T, but I understand that this is a friendly amendment to the committee. They felt that it was an improvement on the original language, so so that's why I'm answering that question. It's not meant to limit, it's to be more specific.
Okay, I mean, the language reading here just says that it will be with this group, or this group.
Right.
B&T came out and said it's for all minorities, and this limits that, and I just have a concern that we're only picking a certain number of groups that wasn't even on the US Census that has minority groups. So that's one concern. The other thing, I believe, is on page of the reprint, talking about crime prevention. I know we're dealing with crime a lot this session, and the amendment before us added crime prevention related to buildings. Can you just explain again what that's about?
I think I will allow the floor, because this was added to the amendment. This is so I'll allow the floor leader to answer that question.
All right, we'll yield to the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Senator. It's a great question. We've had a couple of bills this year related to parks and related to infrastructure and some needs we have at parks. The good senator from Baltimore County has a wonderful bill related to how we can use design principles to make our parks safer. And so we wanted to include that in this parks bill moving forward. So saying that we could use some of the capital improvement money to ensure that we are also building safer parks for our communities.
And just curious, what are some of those designs to prevent crime?
Mr. President, if I could yield to the bill sponsor of the bill that this is kind of referring to.
All right, let's yield to the senator from District 11.
Thank you very much. There's actually something called CEPTID, which is Crime Prevention Through Effective Design. And it is something that design architects use, landscape architects and others use. And it is talking about trimming the tree line up top, the canopy, and also making sure that the ground level shrubbery is low so that there are wide angles from which sight angles, so people can feel comfortable and have a global view around them and feel safer that way. So that's just one example of the kinds of things that we're looking at. Also, lighting is an important aspect of this kind of design.
Okay, thank you.
All right, on the amendment, any further discussion? Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the floor leader yield?
Floor leader yield. Appear so. Senator may proceed.
So with this amendment bringing in more focus on crime prevention and whatnot, my question is, I think with the bill as a whole, you're getting like 100 more employees. So with these park rangers, I mean, aren't they already able to help with that issue just by having the more park rangers in there? Wouldn't they be doing that job already?
Absolutely, Senator, that's an excellent point, and thank you. The bill calls for 180 positions within state parks service, so rangers plus others, so others who make sure, you know, in maintenance and engineering, et cetera, to actually execute the capital side of this bill. We've considered this, the committee considered this a friendly amendment because we already carve out funding for capital improvements, and we thought it was additive to include, you know, to specify that that money could be included for better lighting, for better site views. So just, to me, it's an additive to when we're talking about capital improvements to our state parks.
Okay, but there'll be more park rangers patrolling the areas, whether you have more lighting or whatever. That's, to me, that would be the main deterrent for crime there, is having more bodies who are able to do that job.
Absolutely, I agree.
All right, on the amendment, any further discussion? Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th District on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise, colleagues, in support of this amendment. I worked in the natural resource field for a long time, and one thing I saw was when we got additional parks, we got additional land that was given to us, it became very difficult to be able to manage because there was never a budget that came with it, right? And the way the laws have changed over the last 20 years, the state has received a large amount of property that is not able to take care of. And the big thing that I like about this amendment is when it talks in there about the safety of all the people that attend the parks. This is gives another tool in the toolbox for the officers, the rangers. That's why I'll be supporting this amendment.
All right, on the amendment, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The senator's amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 541 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. All right, we've got a report from JPR. Number 13, clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 585, Senator McCray, Warrant Apprehension Reduction Grant, favorable with 4 amendments.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Senate Bill 585, as amended, this bill alters the definition of absconding to include leaving an inpatient residential treatment facility that a person was placed in under court order without permission, making a non-technical violation. The bill also establishes the warrant apprehension grant by requiring the governor for fiscal year 2024 through 26 to appropriate $2 million of grants for local law enforcement. There are 4 committee amendments, Mr. President. 1 adds co-sponsor. Number 2 is technical. Amendment number 3 adds provisions altering the definition of absconding. And amendment number 4 clarifies the effective date for the provisions of the bill. I'd move for the adoption of the favorable committee report.
4 amendments.
The 4 amendments.
Chair moves to moves the 4 committee amendments in the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 4 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Chair recognizes the
amendment.
Chair of Budget Text with an amendment. All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
We were second on this bill, and our committee really liked it.
Very complicated one. Are there any objections? Without objections, so ordered. All right, any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 585 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 586, Senator McCray, criminal procedure, pretrial release of defendant, notice, favorable with 4 amendments.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Because Baltimore City doesn't have control over the correctional facility, this bill requires that those released from detention are notified to the Baltimore City Police Department within 24 hours. The bill also establishes the District Court Jobs Pilot Program in Baltimore City, and it also requires BPD to report specified information regarding firearms that are destroyed, seized, or recovered to the governor and the General Assembly. There are 4 committee amendments. 1 is technical. Number 2 makes the bill applicable to Baltimore City. Amendment number 3 alters the time with which notice must be made of the release. And then amendment number 4 specifies the format of the notice of release program must be provided, establishes the jobs court program, and adds an appropriation requirement. I'd move for the adoption of the favorable committee report and the 4 committee amendments.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 4 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, chair recognizes the minority leader.
Yeah, if the floor leader.
Will the floor leader yield? Senator may proceed.
Been working on a little bill here today, so I hadn't had a chance to look at this much. Did this come in as a statewide bill? Did I hear that right, or no?
So it did, yes. So portions of it did, yes.
Okay, can I just lay this over and take a look at it?
Senators move to lay the bill and the amendments over. The motion is in order. They so ordered. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 763, Senator Signor, collection and publication of criminal case and prosecutorial information, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the bill sponsor as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 763, as amended, this bill requires the Division of Parole and Probation to annually report to the General Assembly on the number of people under its supervision involved in specified crimes. The bill also requires each state's attorneys to collect and disclose to Maryland State Commission on Criminal Sentencing Policy specified information related to certain prosecuted cases. The commission must begin publishing the data online May 1st of 2025. Finally, the bill makes a definitional change to allow the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services to share criminal justice data with the Maryland Longitudinal Data System Center. This bill has 2 amendments. The first is technical. The second adds to the bill the provisions requiring the division to annually report to the General Assembly, makes definitional changes, removes the administrative office of courts for the data collection processes created in the bill, limits the collection to charges resulting in a conviction in circuit court, strikes many of the specified data points that were required to be collected by the bill as originally drafted, and creates a task force to study the possibility of expanding the collection requirements in the bill to more cases. Mr. President, I would like to lay the bill over for amendment.
All right. So the senator has moved the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report, has also made a motion to lay the bill over under the rule without objection, or the motion is in order. We will lay the bill and the amendments over until tomorrow. Let's do a quorum call before 3rd reading calendar.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 47 senators in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. We'll start with calendar 27. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 349, Senator Heddleman, Baltimore County Property Tax Credit for homeowners who have suffered a hardship.
All right, Senate Bill 349 is on 3rd reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 349, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 367, Senator Pinsky, Patuxent River Commission membership. This is an emergency bill.
Senate Bill 367 is on 3rd reader for final passage. Senators, this is an emergency bill. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote and wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 367, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 372, Senator Kagan, Environment, Sealant Products, Prohibitions, Safer Sealing Act of 2022.
Senate Bill 372 is on 3rd reader for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd District on the bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This bill is here for the 2nd time. It's been adjusted a little bit since last year, but I feel it's still problematic. Mr. President, the chairman of the committee shared with us that the bill is designed to focus on manufacturers and commercial applicators of this product. One of the many problems I have with the bill is on page 4, line, bear with me, 25. 5 is that after October 1st, 2023, a person may not apply or solicit the application of this product. So this provision in the bill specifically addresses homeowners, people who are applying this product to their own driveway. Whether they do it intentionally or not intentionally, I don't think matters. The fact is they're subject to all the penalties under the bill. For this and many other reasons, I'll be voting against the bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. All right, any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 372 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 402, the President, Employees Retirement and Pension Systems, Reemployment Earnings Limitation, COVID-19 Exemption. This is an emergency bill.
Senate Bill 402 is on third reader for final passage. Senators, this is an emergency bill. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 402, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 431, Senator West, Corporations and Associations, Revisions.
Senate Bill 431 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 431, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 442, Calvert County Senators, Calvert County Public Facilities Bonds.
Senate Bill 442 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 442, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 458, Senator Griffith, Maryland Teachers and State Employees Supplemental Retirement Plans, Use of Minority Business Enterprises.
Senate Bill 458 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 458, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 468, Senator West, Estates and Trusts, Personal Representatives, Payment of Commissions and Attorney Fees Without Court Approval.
Senate Bill 468 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 468, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 508, Senator West, Estates and Trusts, Guardianship of Minors, Appointment by Court.
Senate Bill 508 excuse me, is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 508, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 593, Senator Gazzoni, Department of Transportation and Spending Affordability Committee, reports.
Senate Bill 593 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 593, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 739, Senator Elfrith, State Retirement and Pension System Investment Division Compensation.
Senate Bill 739 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 739, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, we've got two more. Calendar 28. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 1, Senator Bidle, State Finance and Procurement, Prevailing Wage, Stop Work Orders.
Senate Bill 1 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District on the bill.
Yeah, if I could ask the floor leader for a quick question on this one?
Will the floor to yield? Appears so. Senator may proceed.
Thank you.
As I understand, this bill allows for any prevailing wage issue, a complete stop work on the project, is that correct?
Well, it does, but realize that in regulation that the commissioner, when the commissioner receives a complaint, that an employee under a public work contract was paid less than the prevailing wage rate, the employee's classification, the commissioner shall investigate the complaint and attempt to resolve the complaint informally within 90 days. So that happens first. After the investigation, if there's not cooperation, if it's not straightened out, then he has the opportunity to do a stop work order.
Is that considered the initial investigation?
What I just read to you is the initial
That's the
investigation.
initial investigation.
Yeah.
Is that have a, is that a, I'm just trying to understand, is if the investigator comes on the site and then they have reason to suspect that there's been a wage violation, at that point, could they go ahead and do the stop work?
All right, well, now first there is something in the bill, there is a sentence in the bill that does clarify that this is the initial investigation.
Right.
But yes, they can do a stop work order if the employer does not cooperate. You know, it means paying the right wage or having the right classification, and every opportunity is given for that to be straightened out. And if it doesn't happen, then the stop work order is, not that it has to happen, but it may happen.
Well, I guess, here's the language that concerns me. It says that after the investigation, the commissioner makes an initial determination that they may have violated, then they may issue a stop work order. So to me, an initial investigation is the investigator comes on the site, somebody says, he has reason to suspect that there's a violation, and then so they say, okay, stop work. Based upon that, could be 5 minutes. Just, somebody says,
I think our
hey,
Department of Labor is unreasonable, because that's what you just said.
I have
That
no
they come
idea.
on- they
I
come
don't-
onto the
they don't
site-
work for me. I don't know any of them. I'm sure, typically bureaucrats that I have found, some of them are eminently reasonable, and some of them are absolutely, well, we won't describe it, but they run like every other profession, everybody else in life, they run the gamut from great folks to not so great folks. So I'm judging this, that if I have a job site and somebody comes on there and they are suspicious that there's a violation, then as I read this, they can stop the work, and not only can they stop the work, but if I'm a subcontractor, based solely upon their suspicion, I'm a subcontractor, they can terminate my contract based upon that suspicion, and I'm just out. They just had a full trial there on my breach of contract action because some guy in the field said, hey, I suspect that there's a violation. Now, this says that that they have the right to the prime. It says that at the bottom, it says if a stop work order is issued against a subcontractor, the prime contractor in the contract may terminate the contract with the subcontractor without incurring any liability for damages.
First off, you're talking about suspicion, particularly says that it's investigated. It doesn't say on suspicion. The COMAR says that it will be investigated. So you've taken that a little far, but it also, the opportunity for the contractor to cancel the subcontractor is that the subcontractor is causing the problem, doesn't cooperate. The contractor doesn't want the whole job stopped, so he can terminate that subcontractor so the work can continue on the contract, and he's then not liable for canceling that contract. That's what that says.
Okay, I got that. So,
Okay.
so what this allows then is, I'm a subcontractor. Inspector comes on, inspector makes inquiry, and based upon that inquiry, they say, oh, I think there's a violation. I dispute that, but they say there's a violation. They issue a stop work.
No, he investigates it. He doesn't come in and say, I think there's a problem, and I'm going to do a stop work order.
Okay,
There has to be an investigation.
Okay, I mean, is there in the law, is there a requirement? To me, I mean, investigations can be 2 years, or they can be 2 minutes. I mean, there's no, an investigation, I can come in as an investigator and say, this guy just told me that you're violating. I believe him. I'm going to put a stop work order. It doesn't say a trial, it doesn't say hearing, it just says an investigation.
Investigation.
Right.
I also want to tell you that in the last 5 years, there have been, 1 year in 17, there were 470 issues with prevailing wage. That was the lowest year. In 18, there were 954. In 19, there were 702. In 20, there were 891. In 21, there were 503. This is from the Department of Labor. So there are issues with prevailing wage, and this is just one more hammer if it's needed to be used.
Right,
Because
okay.
the last case that went to the AG that was finally resolved in November of '21 took 2 years.
Okay.
2 years for that to be resolved. If after the investigation, this inspector could have gone in and done a stop work order, it wouldn't have taken 2 years. This was so egregious that this contractor on the payroll stubs was paying the right salary, but telling these workers if they wanted to keep their job, they need to pay him back $200 a week. And it took 2 years to resolve that.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Just on the bill then.
On the bill.
Thank you. So, colleagues, there's an adage that tough cases make bad laws. What concerns me on this, and look, I don't have any mercy for people who violate wage and hour laws. They should be put out of business. But I do think due process is important. And as I look at this bill, we have an investigation. There's no requirements for how long an investigation, how thorough the investigation is, but we conduct an investigation, and then based upon that investigation, that investigator, not the judge, not a separate body of government, that investigator who investigated, that's the police officer. The police officer can come on your house and say, I suspect a crime, therefore you will shut your house down, you will not do anything. No, we don't do that. The investigator, there's no separation of powers, has come in, they've made a determination, possibly initial determination, that they think that you're violating. And so now they issue a stop work order. And they issue a stop work order on multiple projects because it's every project you're involved in. Now they've shut the contractor down because you're involved in a bunch of the contractor's contracts. You dispute all this. You say this is nonsense. I have made good faith effort and I have not violated this, and you dispute it. But it's going to take you a while to get the records and show that you haven't. So now you're shut down. The contractor shut down, and the contractor says, whoa, I can't deal with this. I got a big project here. I'm going to just fire you. You're gone. I'm going to breach your contract is now null and void. You're out of here. The contract that you hired people for, that you rented additional equipment for, that you bought additional materials for, you upgraded. You're a small guy. You put yourself out on a limb to get this contract, and you bought all this stuff. Now the contractor just turns and says, contract is void. I just voided this contract. You're out of here. You're like, I did nothing wrong. Doesn't matter. The contractor is now protected. They're immune from liability. This is not fundamental due process. Look, we can protect wage and hour laws without this. I think it's a step too far. Have no problem. You go after folks, nail them, totally intolerant. That's the law. You enforce the law. But I do think we have to have we have to have fairness in the process, and to just say, hey, our investigators are going to be fair. I'm a lawyer. I'm sorry. I can't buy that. The law has to. The due process says, I'm not going to rely upon a representation that we have nice investigators, fair investigators. I have a process. It's the due process to ensure that we don't rely upon investigators being nice people. They're held to a standard. Mr. President, I ask for no vote on the bill. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Senator. Any further discussion? Chair recognizes.
Just very quickly, Mr. President, the bill does have an appeal process. It isn't quite what is being projected here, and within 72 hours, a contractor can appeal, and it'll be heard by the appeals, the Board of Contract Appeals.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the bill, any further discussion? The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Senators, just very briefly, we have our pages whose parents are here to pick them up. And so we just want to be able to say hello, say goodbye to them. We have Adayat Auditoro, Alina Allaire, and Una Meki. Did I say it even? Mekic. Of course, Mekic, I see, yeah. We just want to say thank you. Keep up the amazing work. We hope you had a great day today, and we wish you the best. And thank your parents for us, too. Thank your parents and let them know how thankful we are that you borrowed your day. Yes?
Mr. President, I think they deserve a prevailing wage for how hard they worked today.
Too many places. All right. Let's do, clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 3, Senator Carter, Facilities, Disabilities, Juveniles, Behavioral Health, and Healthcare, Children and Community Relations Plans.
All right, Senate Bill 3 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 3, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 260, Senator West, Department of General Services, Broker Rebate Fee Fund established.
Senate Bill 260 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 260, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 272, Senator Gazzoni, Disclosure of Tax Information, Fraud Identification, Prevention, or Response.
Senate Bill 272 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 272, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 306, Senator Lamb, Dental Hygienist, Consultation Requirements, Healthcare Practitioners.
Senate Bill 306 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 306, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 348, Senator Elfreth, Conservation Finance Act.
Senate Bill 348 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 348, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 253, Senator Lamb, Health Insurance, Prescription Insulin Drugs, Limits on Co-Payment and Co-Insurance, Insulin Cost Reduction Act.
Senate Bill 353 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 353, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Final calendar, 29.
one more.
Oh. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 355, Senator Lamb, HIV prevention drugs, prescribing and dispensing by pharmacists and insurance requirements.
Senate Bill 355 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 355, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Now the final calendar, 29. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 369, Senator King, Income Tax, Maryland Earned Income Tax Credit Assistance Program for Low-Income Families.
All right, Senate Bill 369 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 369, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 391, the President, Economic Development, More Jobs for Marylanders Program, Extension and Alterations.
Senate Bill 391 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 391, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 421, Senator Rosapep, Primary and Secondary Schools Bus Driver Wages Study. This is an emergency bill.
Senate Bill 421 is on third reader for final passage. Senators, an emergency bill. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 421, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 473, Senator Edwards, Economic Development, Maryland Innovation and Initiative Program, Qualifying Donations.
Senate Bill 473 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 473, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 478, Senator Hester, Career and Technical Education Committee Alterations.
Senate Bill 478 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 478, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 572, Senator Klossmeyer, Insurance, Surplus Line Brokers, Policy Fees.
Senate Bill 572 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 572, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 600, Senator Kelly, Health Facilities, Residential Service Agencies, Reporting Requirement.
Senate Bill 600 is on third reader for final passage. Chair recognizes the minority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had a really good debate on this in committee. We want to do everything we can to support our residential service and assisted living providers. There already is a big study and working group going on about this issue that started last year, and the industry, a lot of them came in opposed to this because they feel like it could be duplicative. Also, it's another reporting requirement, and it gets pretty deep into the business that they run. And so I felt, and some of my colleagues felt, that it was a bridge too far and just didn't need to be. So I thought I would get up and just explain why I will be voting no on this bill.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 600, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 789, Senator Feldman, Public Utilities, Underground Facilities, One Call System.
Senate Bill 789 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 789, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Senators, the desk is clear. Desk is clear. Long day, long day. Yes, Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I be recorded in the red on Senate Bill 600?
Any objections? Without objections, Senator vote will be changed from green to red. Let's do committees. Actually, well, let's do committees. Chair recognizes the Chair of Finance.
Finance Committee will be in hearings in 15 minutes, about 3:45. We've got 9 bills.
Whew. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Chair recognizes the Chair of Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. President. Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs will meet for hearings at 4 o'clock. We have, I believe, 9 bills. Because of the work of our staff today, we might have to postpone voting until tomorrow. We may vote a few bills, but if not, we'll vote tomorrow. And I do want to give a special shout out to Committee Counsel April Morton, who backed me up, and my staff, Ian Ullman, in terms of today. They gave a lot of support. They're the ones that make us look so good. So thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Yes, thank you to the great staff. And in fact, as we're there, just all of the committee staff that's been on, working so hard, the DLS staff, all the council, they just do great work. And adjust on the fly. Now I'm sure there's all the readjustment for scheduling. So Chair recognizes the Chair of Budget and Tax.
The bill hearings at 5 of, we got so many bills, I can't even count them.
All right.
20 bills.
20 bills. Have fun.
Possible, very short voting session after.
All right. Everyone sounds so thrilled today. Chair recognizes the Chair of Judicial Proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. President. Judicial Proceedings Committee will meet today at 4 o'clock for bill hearings, followed by a voting session, I think. So we'll see.
JPR after dark.
There you go.
All right. Any other standing committees? Select committees, delegations. All right, Senators, just scheduling-wise. Look, yes, Chair recognizes the co-chair of the Protocol Committee. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. We do have a birthday today, so permission to use the senator's
Senator may
name.
proceed.
It is Senator Augustine's birthday, so please wish him a happy birthday. What a day he has to celebrate his birthday. Happy birthday.
What he asked for was 5.5 hours of floor debate. That is what, the greatest present a senator could get. All right, scheduling-wise, we got a lot done today. Thank you all. It was good, solid, spirited, interesting debate. Tomorrow we are going to be on the floor, but we won't overdo it. So we're going to try and aim for an hour or so. And then next week is going to be a lot of floor time. So just think about it as we're planning things out for next week. Those afternoon meetings are probably not going to happen. So just keep it in mind. We may have to do a double session here or there as we ramp up to crossover. So, all right. Any further announcements before? Yes, Chair.
Mr. President, according to social media, which can be a dangerous thing to rely on, it sounds like the baseball strike is over.
Oh, really?
I told the commissioner that we were going to stay in here on the climate bill until they ended the strike. And no, in all seriousness, it sounds like they've reached an agreement. So maybe we'll be able to play ball in April.
That's really great news. That is really great news. It's a good way to end. All right. Anything else? All right, let's do a quorum call before we adjourn.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 46 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, Senate Maryland remains in session. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that, well, let me just say ahead of time, if I may, in honor of Women's History Month, today is Harriet Tubman Day. So I would like to adjourn today in honor of Harriet Tubman.
Very appropriate.
So I move that the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned until Friday, March 11th at 11 a.m. in honor of Harriet Tubman.
Without objection, so ordered. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. See you tomorrow.